Yes, grace and peace, everyone. Shabbat shalom, brethren and sistren. Brother Sean and Brother Javid here.
Bless up in one love as we move. One love to all who are joining us today. Shabbat shalom. Bless up to the brothers and sisters. Let's just get into this. This lesson is entitled The True Messiah, Jehoshua the Nazarite, Part 1 of 2. Gonna be deep. Gonna be deep. Let us pray.
Let us pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us out of temptations, and deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and all the glory forever. In the authority and love of your Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, our Savior, we pray. So be it.
Praise Jah. Today's date is the 25th day of Sivan, the third month for the year 6225 from creation, equivalent to Saturday, May 3rd, 2025 AD. This is the last Sabbath of the third month. This is the last Sabbath of the latter rain spring season as well. It's the 12th Sabbath of the year, the 84th day, and next week is the beginning of summer and the fourth month. Praise Jah.
Yes, praise Jah.
Here we are on the 28-year cycle. All right, calendar 9, as you may know already. And as we tune into the 364-day scriptural almanac, always reminding everyone that the equinoxes and solstices are the middle of the true scriptural seasons. They are not the beginning of the seasons. That's a scriptural satanic deception. Here we are on the 25th. Again, a reminder that the Most High's calendar always starts on the first day of the week when it comes to the beginning of the year. And that means that the last day of the year will always be on the seventh day Sabbath as well. The festivals are set and they're fixed on the Most High scriptural calendar. They don't wander from the day of the week, nor the dates don't move as well. So the numericals and the day of the week are fixed and static on Jah's scriptural set almanac, his calendar. And next week, as I said, or this coming Friday, Thursday evening, is the beginning of the fourth month, also the beginning of summer. And we'll have an exclusive lesson that way. Hey, what's going on here for a second? Let me see some Brother Javid. Oh, there we go. Yes, so we're going to be having an exclusive lesson next week regarding the summer seasons. As we do every change of season, we always focus on the seasons to keep us in tune with the scriptural almanac. Here we are as we look at Sivan, the third month, again, the last Sabbath of the month. Also, this is the latter rains or the spring rains. And of course, this is ending this month as well. Jah's scriptural almanac is lined up perfectly with his climate and his weather systems of Israel and on many parts of the earth too, just like here we are in Toronto as well. The Most High's almanac is also synchronized as well. And we'll talk about that next Sabbath. So, as we say, summer's coming soon. Scripture.
Luke 21, verse 30. And he spake a parable to them, and he spake to them a parable. Behold the fig tree, and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is now near at hand.
Yes, summer is near. If you've been watching the weather in your area, I've been watching it, carefully, as I always do throughout the year, because I like to, learn just things. And, when you start to get a good understanding about the cherry blossoms and a lot of the other trees in your neighborhood, you'll see that typically late April or early May is the peak bloom time, depending on the weather, for the cherry blossoms, which are a sign of summer. And every year, the Pentecost tree, as I call it, outside of my house, those who kind of get my WhatsApp or whatnot, you see I'm always putting out little videos of the gardening and the the signs that you can see of the seasons, just in our local neighborhood. And this is one of them. And it's like clockwork. By Pentecost, you'll see the buds starting to come out. And some years, it might come out a little bit more earlier and be more vibrant. Others, it's just pushing out there as it was this year. And as well, when you get to look at stuff, like dandelions, first of all, dandelions are pretty healthy. Believe it or not, if you have your own grass and whatnot, dandelions are very healthy. You can make teas from the roots as well as the leaves. You can crush up all of, I guess you'd call them the yellow petals as well, and put them in your salad, whatever, a strong source of many vitamins. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of my own picking on my own front yard this year, because I don't spray my yard with any chemicals or anything of that nature. But these persistent plants, can grow in just about any type of soil and climate. As you know, they're very vigorous that way. And they bloom from, look at that, David, from May to October. That's the whole 6-month summer period, right?
That's right.
And, this is a beautiful understanding when you start to get an understanding of the different vegetation and trees and greeneries. It's really beautiful. And not only that though, brother, at least in Ontario, these are things I look at, they call it early spring, usually around April or early May, but that for us, that's late spring. And yeah, that's when you get your queen bees, coming out and getting ready to go find a place to, start to have the rest of the other drone bees come and building a hive and having a whole up, being fruitful and multiplying. And I in particular, my wife and my children know I'm a big nature fan. I like dealing with the bugs and all of those things. I'm not really afraid of them. I haven't been stung yet, give thanks to Jah. But these creatures are very important, even for our ecosystem as well. And they come out like clockwork. And I don't know how it worked, but this week, Brother Javed, it was sometime earlier this week, though, I was doing something in my room. I think I was looking at the TV, trying to fix the cord because my TV, it went out. And then I just heard like a, and I was like, whoa, man, that bee's loud outside, I go look outside. The thing is like right behind me, and it was a pretty, it looked like it was a queen. And like I said, they're not aggressive. They're not there to try to sting you or anything of that nature. I just got a cup and put it outside because the queens are usually bigger than the drones, right? So they come out of hibernation.
No, it's funny you say that, because I thought I saw a bee outside in the backyard this week too, but it was kind of far. And I was like, oh, it looked like I saw a bee there. And so, and if it was, then I'm not surprised, because of it's right on time.
It's right.
Beginning of summer.
Those colors, the certain butterflies are going to be coming out. The bees have the big yellow on them. So those are what you'd call summer insects, right? They come out during those times. Their colors reflect on what they are, just as much of the vegetation also can reflect on the time of year that we're in. So these are good things to know. And again, these are signs that I see in my neighborhood. And I also like to also look on the internet and see what's going on out there. But main point is that everything is perfect with Jah's calendar. They come out exactly the right time.
That's right.
And here we are again on the 25th, which is May the 3rd, as you can see. And next, like I said, next week, or this coming week, we can call it Thursday evening, which would be Friday, May the 9th. As you know how their calendar is messed up. They start at midnight. But it's the beginning of summer, and you will, if not even this week, you're going to see a different change in the atmosphere. Now, when I say this, it's not that it's just going to be a little bit more warmer or anything. It's just going to be something that is going to be very noticeable, especially when it comes to your evenings. You're going to see just that little bit of, it's a different type of warmth. The wind will be a different type of breeze, and it's observable is what I'm trying to say, but you have to kind of be paying attention. And so I would encourage everyone, especially if you're wherever you are, watch out for this week, as the signs of summer are already here, but as it starts to increase. I want to give a shout out to all the brothers and sisters joining us today. Auntie Elma as well, sitting in. Hope all is well with you. Greg and Mama Greg. Bless up, Mama Greg. Make sure you take care of that young man there. And bless up to you, Greg. All the brothers and sisters that are of the Zion Assembly, Sister Andrea, Sister Carice, Sister Janessa, Brother Joel, Sister Essence, Sister Sarah, Sister maybe, what's her name? Jasleen. We got Naela. I always get a hard time trying to pronounce that name there. Naela. 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 Again, Sister Brother John. We got Ben McFerrin joining us today, pushing out the modern Hebrew name of the Messiah as well, Yahshua. And all others who I can't see, one love to you, the Alton family as well. We missing anybody?
I think that's it, Shabbat Shalom to all the brothers and sisters listening in.
All right. As always, all praise, glory, and honor to Jah, Yah, our Abba, and his only begotten Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, the Nazarite, who died for our sins, also known in the world as Yehoshua, Yahshua, Yeshua, the Messiah, HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. And some people call him Yahusha and Yahawashai, and we'll have a little bit of an understanding about that too. And, when it comes to names, we respect all those who call upon the name of the Messiah and the Father. And yes, there are erroneous translations, pagan titles have been substituted, and pagan doctrines going along with those names and titles as well. So this topic is going to be a deep one. This is going to be a very challenging topic, very deep one, but the zeal of the Father's Spirit is, I just feel it's just pushing out, a little bit more, and I have to kind of make sure that these understandings are recognized. This lesson is going to be in 2 parts. It could possibly be in 3, but we're going to cover so much different aspects of this understanding. And yeah, we're going to get into names because, as you know, for me, when we teach, we respect all the names, and I still do. And there are faultier translations than others, but what I'm starting to find more and more in this mature growth is that certain names and understandings have been attached to certain false doctrines in a great, great, great way. So, I want the brothers and sisters to kind of hear me out. And I know everybody's about the J. We'll get into a little bit about that. But I'm going to be speaking a lot of truths as it regards the Messiah. We believe that we teach the true aspect of the Messiah. So as you know, Christianity has their European Jesus and all of that. And, there's different understandings of the Hebrew Israelite Messiah, Yahawashai, and being the Son of the Most High, and the virgin birth debate, and whether the Messiah is the Father and there's a Trinity and all of that. We teach that it's the Father and the Son, and there's no such thing as a Trinity. Jah the Father is the Son. We teach that the J sound is ancient in the Hebrew. Yes, we can also almost even prove that the Y thing is a big fat lie, but we're respecting it because it'll be a part of the other Gentile languages in a certain sense. As well, we don't believe the Messiah is the Father. No, the Messiah is the Son of the Father. They're equal to, and as I want to say, Brother Javid always think of you when he's equal to, but not greater than the Father.
That's right.
And that's a very true statement. The Father is greater than him. And of course, we believe he's a black man. We believe his name is Jehoshua, Joshua, pronounced that way anciently in the correct. But those who have it differently, again, we're not putting up too much of a fight. Although it's good for you to get an understanding of what's going on. He's the way, the truth, and the life, a black man, and he was a Nazarite. Dreadlocks was going on with the Messiah, not your fashion dreads, but you would call free-forming locks that Nazarites have, and more like how you would see Rastafarians out there as well, how they wear their locks. I'm talking about the, kind of the cultural, natural Rastafarians who just had their, you could call them bubble dreads, or not bubble dreads. What's it called? I guess it's freeform, but like Naya Bingi locks. So we teach greatly that that's who the Messiah was, and nobody else teaches that. I haven't come across anybody that teaches that the Messiah is a Nazarite, because they say, oh, he drank wine, he touched this, the dead body, became unclean. Just as they say, oh, Joseph, brought him into existence, and all of that stuff with having sex with Mary. All of those things are not true. And yes, the people on the other side of the coin who I might be speaking about are going to say what I'm saying is not true. And that's how this battle is going to go until the Messiah comes. So we got to fight the good fight. And we do so in love, but at the same time, to be honest, we have to expose and rebuke, especially those out there who are teaching false doctrine. We're going to be a part of that. And we're here also open for people to rebuke us as well. But I do so to open up the eyes of our people, Israelites, and our people also, the righteous Gentiles who are in the Messiah. That's how this is going to work. This is how we're throwing it down today. And
Mhm.
some of y'all might not like me after this, to be honest, but I don't really care, because I'd rather make sure that the Most High, whatever He's going to show me secretly and privately in my studies, I got to bring out. So I do this in love, although you're going to hear my zeal be kind of vehement. And vehement has a great play on what I'm going to be talking about today. Did you know that the Most High's name means the most vehement, the most powerful? Oh, yeah, I can prove it from the Bible too.
Mhm.
We're going to do that. So, as we go into this, I'm going to be going at a pace that may speed up and slow down. We'll get to the actual Nazarite issues as we move along, but we're going to be focusing on the aspect of the true Messiah, beginning with the testimony of the Messiah. Brother Javed, do you want to add anything here?
Well said, Brother Sean. And, when you speak the truth, Joshua said, offenses must come. So we're not ignorant of that when we speak the truth. Those who are offended, let them be offended. And those who believe and love the truth, and let them grow in the faith.
All right. Seatbelts on. Let's move. We teach that the Messiah was a Nazarite. And this is what the testimony of the Messiah teaches. Go ahead, brother.
Isaiah 8, verse 16. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Revelation 12, verse 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Jah and have the testimony of Jehoshua the Messiah.
So the most important thing regarding however, even when you hear me speak about the name, keeping the commandments of the Father and of the Son, and having the testimony of the Son, which is also His commandments in truth. The testimony means how the testimony has been given to us in the New Covenant Scriptures, even going through the faulty translations and all of that. The truth is there, and even going through the false doctrines about things, the truth still will remain. And so, if you want to say you really know the Most High's name and the Son's name, you must be keeping their commandments in faith and truth. And I'm not against any of that, no matter what name you call upon. But I do know that a lot of the names that I see that might be suspect, and the doctrines of the suspect, especially with the Messiah, their doctrines are also tied to very suspicious false doctrines. And these false doctrines aren't just like things like, oh, it doesn't really matter if it's about your salvation. Greatly dealing with your salvation, greatly dealing with the foundation of your faith. And I mean, people want to talk about the color of the Messiah, and you hear, it doesn't matter this and that. Well, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't have gave us no Gentile, European, Yiddish, Jewish type of looking Messiah at all, right?
Mhm.
Because they're doing something here. So when I do show pictures and of individuals with dreadlocks, I'm not saying that that's the Messiah. We don't have objects. I don't have no pictures of or images of Jesus or the Messiah in any which way in our home. But when we are teaching our lesson, I'm bringing forth these things as illustrations for us. None of us were there for sure, but the scriptures can give us a good understanding of, the area of like how we might have looked. And I mean, I'm not going to be going into proving, that the Israelites are black today. Hopefully, by now, many people know that, know how to find it, going through the scriptures, getting studies on, the oven, the black skin, all of these different things, the woolly hair in Revelation, feet like bronze, many other aspects. I'm not going to go through all of that because by this time, hopefully, a lot of people have this understanding already. So this is what we're dealing with here. Let's move.
Revelation 19, verse 10. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jehoshua. Worship Jah, for the testimony of Jehoshua is the spirit of prophecy.
So this testimony is very important. And I just want to really bring it out that, the Messiah is the way, the truth, and the life. So obviously the devil is going to be attacking anything that deals with any depictions of the Messiah, any teachings of the Messiah, any followings or anything that deal with the Messiah. The devil is going to go hardcore at that, right? Because he hates the Father and the Son, you understand? And he hates those people who love him too. So be on your guard. He's out there looking for you to slip, and he'll be there when you slip. Trust me, take it
Yeah.
from me. I'm experienced, and I'm pretty sure Brother Javid is, and many people who are mature in the faith and been walking in this, knowing you're the Messiah and that you're an Israelite for more than 25 years. All of us are part of the Zion Assembly of Jah. And for my children, even from they were born, they knew these things. And the point here is that you start to see what's going on as we mature more and more in this faith.
Mm-hmm.
Bless up, Sister Trinidad. One love. And again, one love to all who are joining us. Again, James Fraser, bless up.
Shalom.
James says, we are one breath away from our eternity, so be ready. Yes, we are. We must be ready. So keep this testimony and understand it. And again, not everyone who professes, and knows the Messiah's name is getting eternal life at all. A lot of that is just a bunch of, folly. Some people teach that, if you're not saying the true name, you're breaking the third commandment. And the third commandment has nothing to do with the pronunciation of the Most High's name, getting it correctly and right in the true ancient. They say paleo, ancient, paleo, and proto, but those guys are even lying about that. So much lies, man. This thing gets deep. But, the profession of the Most High's name, when it comes to the third commandment, has to deal with, of course, using his name as a curse word, blaspheming it out loud, using it in any derogatory way. But most importantly, he's being a hypocrite and a fake believer. That's what it comes down to. This is why that commandment is the only commandment that comes with this phrase attached to it, that will not hold him guiltless, that takes the Most High's name in vain. And we know the Most High has enough mercy. He talks about his mercy, and it's in there. But that commandment, he's saying, like, hey, if you're guilty of this thing here, it's big trouble for you. So it's not about getting the name right. I've heard people say, if you're not saying Yahusha and Yahweh Shai, then you're breaking the third commandment. Get away with that. That's a lot of lies. Doesn't matter what name you're using, in that sense, you're not breaking the third commandment. But if you claim to be a follower of the Messiah, a true follower of Jesus, Yahshua, Joshua, Jehoshua, and then you're going out there doing secret sins and, kind of treating the Most High's commandments in a flippant way, but at the same time, you're worshiping with your mouth and how much you love him, and you post and you're all social about it, but you're not keeping his commandments, especially in your mind, then that commandment is for us and you that you're doing those things. That's why it's not a guiltless thing, because it's not a one-off thing. You just misuse the Most High's name, because you never knew the true understanding. But when you're living a lifestyle of professing to be a follower of the King and you're not living up to it, that's where he's going to say, I'm going to hold you, guiltless or guilty or not, for that command. So please, as we even go through this, make sure you're still understanding this concept, because we're mature now, right? None of this that, we just pick up the book and start reading it. We have to grow and move forward.
That's right. Matthew 7, verse 21. Not every one that saith unto me, Master, Master, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not spoke or prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity.
This is a great thing. This is dealing with that third commandment area, right? People are calling on his name and everything. But look at this. They say, we call you Master. We called you Yahweh Shai. We called you Joshua, Jehoshua. We were using the true name that we thought it was in Paleo, Proto, and Modern. Or otherwise, we just used Jesus. It's when it says, have we not spoke or prophesied in thy name? That means teaching. When it also means his name, he's not talking about here a name, because the Messiah says you didn't get my name right. But this really means in his authority. So if anybody comes to teach or claim to preach in the authority of the Son of the Most High, and even if it's in English and you're using the English Jesus Christ and everything, that person's coming in the authority of the Messiah, even if they have the wrong name. But if they're teaching wrong doctrines and doing wrong things, then again, this is where this area of this understanding comes in. You see, you can cast out devils, you can do some wonderful works and miracles, and he's still going to say, "Never knew you." You see, the devil has powers too. A lot of
Yeah.
those miracles that Christian teachers do out there, a lot of them are just fake. Yep, we know that, set up and whatever, and are just illusions. But some of these things are real. You understand? And we know that the devil has powers because we see in the plagues with Moses that these magicians were able to do a few of the plagues, maybe up to the third or fourth one. But after that, they cannot match just power. So be careful. If you're working in iniquity, you're not obeying the Messiah's commandments that he tells us about lusting and about hating and praying for our neighbors and doing all these other wonderful things in the name of love, then, or breaking the Most High's Father's 10 commandments as well, you're a worker of iniquity and you're not getting into the kingdom. We're going into the lake of fire. These are the worst words any human being believer wants to hear, right? We don't want to hear these words. I never knew you. Because that's like a rude awakening. And this is how this deception goes. So we have to have kind of a little bit of a soft heart that Joshua has for the people, and at the same time also be ready to rebuke the leaders and the elders who are leading away the sheep, because it's like that's what the Messiah seemed to have a problem with, these leaders and teachers. But those who were being deceived, he had a heart for them to try to take them out of that deception, and he tried to correct the leaders too if they were able to take heed to that correction.
That's right. And take note, brothers and sisters, he says many are going to come to Joshua saying that they spoke and preached in his name. And just like how it is today, hey, many preach in the name of Jesus Christ, Yahweh Shai, Joshua, and Yahshua. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be preaching the truth. And that preaching the truth is also tied to workers of iniquity. If they're not teaching to keep Jah's commands, the Father and the Son's commandments, and they think that the law is done away with, then they're living in iniquity, even though despite their preaching in the name of the Son. And this is where many people are going to fall short of, because they're going to be disobedient to Jah's words and his commandments.
That's right, brother. Well said. All right, let's go.
2 Corinthians 11, verse 4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Joshua, whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him.
Yes. So here's something here. We know that there's no other messiahs really, but in doctrine and teaching there is. That's right. In doctrine and teaching, it says right there, if he that comes preaches another, it says Jesus there, we could just put there another Messiah, another Christ, another Jehoshua, Yahshua, whatever name you're gonna. That means another one means there's something wrong about that Messiah. So it could be maybe the correct name, it could even be the correct identity, but the teachings and his, exactly who he is. If you believe that he is the Son of the Most High, El, God, Jah, Yah, then you're on good terms. That means he is the Son of the Father. The Father made Miriam pregnant. But if you believe that Joseph made Miriam pregnant, that's another Messiah. Yeah, you might say, no, it's not. It's the same thing, whatever. No, it's another gospel. Because the gospel of the Messiah doesn't deal with Joseph having sex with Miriam. That's a very, very devious lie. And I know brothers and sisters out there who deal with that. And I'm not even talking about people close to me. In our city, Toronto, there's many groups that teach against the truth of these things. And they call it, the Christian Catholic, what is it called? Immaculate Conception. Forget about all of those terms. Just look into the scripture and read it for yourself. There are other messiahs. If you have a messiah here that teaches you that only Israelites can get into the kingdom and nobody else is getting into the kingdom at all except blood Israelites, that's another messiah. That's another gospel. That's another faith. That's another spirit. If you teach a Jesus or a Messiah that says you can eat whatever you want, don't worry about clean foods, who cares about the Sabbath day, and let's keep pagan festivals and forget about the scriptural festivals, that's another Messiah. That's another spirit. That's another gospel, despite the name calling. So I divide up the names issue with the Messiah, and the identity is with exactly the doctrines that you will see. And for some reason, it seems like birds of a feather flock together. Some people will believe certain many things that might be true, and some will not believe certain other things in that way, and there'll be a mixing, mingling, and everybody's putting up their hands saying, well, nobody's gonna knows all the truth and all this and that. And I never hear the Messiah kind of talk that kind of talk. We might not know everything like we say, but the things that the Messiah give us, and it says that, and even in Scripture, we know that these things are true. And I know I say that, we say that, and then we have so much other people saying the same thing. So this is, again, a part of this journey that we have to go through, and you have to test the spirits according to the Holy Scripture. Don't test the spirit according to your vibe and your feeling and all of this and that. You study the word too, so you can know who's out there deceiving you or being deceived, and then so also you can teach other people the truth. There is other messiahs. I don't care which name you call. Doesn't matter which name you call. There's arguments against every single name, but many people, the names that you're calling upon, are attached to a false gospel, attached to a false spirit, and a false Messiah. I'm just telling you that. That's the truth of the matter. This is how the devil works. This is why the path is narrow. All of these things, we have to kind of zakar, remember, and put in our mind, because if we let these things slip, we'll get caught off with everybody else.
That's right. Well said.
What to say? They might even bear with him, right? You might even deal with it. Yeah, why not? Since they're my brothers and sisters in the flesh, I'm gonna go follow what they say anyways. But what if they're walking into the grave, right?
That's right. That's why it's very important that we know and understand the true testimony of Joshua the Messiah, the son of Jah, written in the scriptures. That means we believe everything that he spoke about and taught, and how he actually came into the world. Because if you don't, that means somebody else might preach and come in the name of the Messiah and will lead you astray, because they don't believe in the true testimony of Joshua the Messiah. And we've covered many lessons over the last several weeks of the true testimony of how Joshua came in, which includes him being born of a virgin, and many other things. Mm-hmm. And many other people teach against these things very clearly, and that's not the true gospel. So they believe in another Jesus. They believe in a different Messiah than we do. Mm-hmm. And it's not the true one. And if you're not careful, many of you might fall into that camp and be led away led into another gospel, led by another spirit, like these verses here in Corinthians tell us.
That's right, brother. That's right. Exactly right. So there's many faces and identities, as we know, black, white, Chinese, and which one is real and whatnot, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, we read this already, but we didn't read it, but we read this concept. Go ahead, brother.
Matthew 24, verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many. For there shall arise false messiahs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect.
Yes. So basically what you have going on in the scene here, family, real talks, you have fake messiahs going on. And especially when it comes to, the Gentile Jesus here with the blue eyes and all of that kind of thing, the depiction of him, we know that that's the false image of a false God, the false Messiah. And if anything, if you're wise, you better be wise to know that in the future, if there is going to be a man coming of righteousness and doing certain kind of things, he might just look like this guy. Because if he does, people are going to accept that. That's why this image is put out there. The image is put there so that, it can brainwash people's mind. And then when we get a little bit more knowledge, some people like to, make the Messiah black as we should be. And, this is Nathaniel from IUIC, kind of just made himself up nice to make it look like he's like the Messiah and everything too. And, I know the whole woolly hair and all of that understanding. When the Messiah was on the earth, though, he did have black hair. His hair wasn't white like wool. The white like wool represents his ancientness and how he would be in spirit form. But on earth, when he was here, his hair was black. But that's neither here nor there. There is a false Messiah coming in this way, and there's a false gospel and a Messiah too on the black side. You understand? Mm-hmm. So on the Christian European side and on the Hebrew Israelite side, you still got false messiahs. Many within the European and many within that way. And we're in this area where we got to try to figure out what is going on.
That's right.
When you've seen all the images and the different understandings, right?
Luke 21, verse 8. And he said, take heed that you be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them.
That's right. So here, when he's saying, I am the Messiah, it's not me, like me coming to you saying, hey, guess what, guys? I am the Messiah. No, what this means is that people are going to come and they're going to use the Bible and say, hey, this is the Messiah. The guy who died for you, did the sin thing, the Son of the Most High. They're going to talk about that is him. But they're going to use that, teaching to deceive people. And if they tell you, oh, it's soon, the time is soon near, and this and that, and you better be careful, get ready to go to the wilderness, and we got a place in the mountains up in somewhere in states and all that stuff. Don't follow those things, man. When you know the times and how certain things go on, especially for the Most High's people, he's going to let you see the proper signs of things and not these fake signs. I mean, just remember how much people were carrying on about a dumb eclipse in April of this, was it last year, April of last year?
Yeah.
People were losing their minds. Israelite groups. I saw so many videos. Little children talking out. They're bringing out their kids and making their little youths them talk up on. Oh, I dream a dream, and everybody I dream a dream, and dream, and all kind of things. And this thing came and went and came and went. And that's not how the Messiah is going to come, with eclipses and normal, phenomena of the sun, moon, and stars. You see, when the sun, moon, and stars go dark and all that stuff, it'll be like us just talking now and like a power outage. Not no scheduled eclipse. So the heathens can go, oh, there's an eclipse coming in 2 weeks, and hey, the Messiah's coming. Like that. Like how deceived can we be?
It's going to catch the whole world off guard when it happens.
Man. So frustrating to see what happens, and with the COVID and everything, and everybody losing their faith. And I mean, I don't want to get too much challenged in my faith either. Like I said, forgive me for my talk a little bit, but we got to be a little bit stronger. Looking up in the sky and wondering if a lunar cycle is the beginning of a month, and if the lunar cycle is going to tell you what the 7th-day Sabbath is. Like, really? It's kind of like frustrating to see this deception amongst our people, following the ways of the Gentiles. That's their calendar. You know whose calendar it is? The Rev 29 guys. They're using the name, their Hebrew, which our brothers and sisters want to use their names in the Hebrew that they use. They want to use the same calendar that they use and observe the same festivals at the same times that they use, and all of that. And while wear tassels and things the wrong ways, just like them. Yeah, and then called, oh, we're the chosen people, the apple of his eye. This is a deception here. The Hebrew is fake. The calendar is fake. The people are fake. All of that is fake. It's fake. It's not real. The Hebrew that we think we're speaking, watered down and played with. They all tell a big lie. There's no J sound in the Hebrew. We're going to talk about that today. That's so foolishness. I mean, the sound just came up like 500 years ago. Somebody just sitting around going, let me just read this. It's going on. You know what to do. Judge. We're not going to say judge no more. We're not going to say yo-yod. We're going to say judge. We're not going to say generation. We're going to say generation. The J sound. Oh, this is just genius. No, I mean, genius. I mean, it's genius. Oh, I mean, let's read the King Yami's Bible, the King James Bible. Folly. It's been a trick that's put out there. I call it scholarly tricks and deceptions by these false scribes and everybody in the world. Anytime I have a thing, last week, we did a thing on the Messiah's commandments, 2 hours talking about the Messiah's commandments. Somebody types in, yo, there's no J, sit down, bro. Like, seriously? That's what it's come to. I say, hey, what about the doctrine? But I know for a fact, people don't like the J sound, even in the J. They can't even, many people in places, I don't want to make them hate on me, but they can't even say Elijah. They say Elijah, Abijah. What's Jah? It's Jah with an affricative palatal Jad sound. J, Jad. But this Elijah, you might say, oh, that's just pronunciation. There's a problem with this name Jah for people. That's right. Why Satan brought his Trinity doctrine to the Rastafarians so they can say, Selassie is the third part of the Trinity. There's no such thing as a Trinity. That's so easy to shoot down the Rastafarian thing. Even though I respect them, but that Selassie Trinity, he's a part of the triune God. There's no such thing as a Trinity. You see, all of these understandings, we have to do more research. I'm not just saying them because I'm zealous about these things. You do your research. There's a lot of lies. Oh, there's no J in the original 1611 and all this and that. That's lies. No J sound until that's a lie. And we're going to talk about those lies. But here's what I want to get into: that letter Y. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that letter Y and how it came through the Hebrew language and everything, and who picked it up and gave it to us to hold on to when that was the Gentile stuff. Yeah, the J is the black stuff and the Y is the Gentiles things. Let's move on.
Yes. First Maccabees 3 verse 48. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
So as we know, the heathen put these images, they're in the world. Look where they want to put these pictures in the book of the law, right? The Bible.
Yeah.
And, how many Bibles do you have now in the world with pictures of Gentiles, Gentile artistry? And I mean, you just do anything about Jesus and God, type in God online. He's a white guy with a big beard. Jesus. It's always dealing with their images. And that's a part of the devil's deception. You see, I honestly hate the devil and his deception more than actually the people that he's working through. There's almost the same thing. Yeah, I know families are family, but some people are just deceived. You understand? And we have to help them to come out of the deception. But some other people, they're not deceived. They know the truths. They ignore it to stay in their nice little religious club or their group or congregation or ecclesia, whatever you want to call it. But these images here have been there to deceive the people.
That's right. And that verse in Maccabees is a strong evidence to show that the likeness of the true people of Israel and who Joshua was does matter. Because if it didn't matter, then they wouldn't have sought to paint the likeness of their images in Jah's book. So it does matter to deceive people and make them think that the people look like Gentiles, and they're not.
Mm-hmm. We got to start looking at things like and say to ourselves, instead of, oh, that doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, start looking at ourselves, maybe everything matters. And if you have that mind frame, if everything matters, it might help us to be a little bit cleaner in our studies, right? And let Jah sort out the confusions if there is any in us, because the devil deceived us. I could be deceived in some areas, yes. But, if you stick with the Messiah is going to help you come out of that deception. And not just stick with him, not just talk about him, but really focus on self. I think people don't really focus on their self as much, and they think they're pretty close to the Messiah. And it might sound like I'm bragging, but I'm not bragging. I'm far from being near his righteousness, very far. The temptations that come across us daily, the way you might want to slip, losing control of yourself, very, very far. And this is why we need him to help us with his Ruach, his spirit, to come into us, which is the Father. So again, I know there's a lot of falsehood, but pretty much everything you see here, there's false doctrines around all of them. You see, when we start looking at things and understanding about languages, I want you to pay attention to this number 3 in languages. It's something that I've seen as a pattern throughout, and I think this pattern will help you to learn too, as well, to put things into the proper perspective of things. There were three main original languages after the flood. There were 3 main languages in the Messiah's time. There were 3 main scriptural eras of Hebrew. There were 3 main languages of translation, and there are 3 main letters for the 10th Hebrew character, which many people will call the Yod, the Yad, or the Jad, as we might call it, or even the Iota, right? So let's look at this pattern here. Well, we have, if you want to look at your own Genesis chapter 10, you get the 3 main languages. The Japhetic, from Japheth, which one of the sons of which the Gentiles came from, and mostly the Europeans and everything in Asia, as you can see here. This was their understanding of languages. Then we have the Hamitic tongue, dealing with most of, you call the land of Ham, what you call modern Africa, but also the land of Canaan, going so far as over to India. You have the Shemitic tongue, which also shared the land with the Hamites as well, dealing with Arabia, Canaan, and as far as over going again to Babylon, of the Chaldees. And there was specific languages, that they spoke. And what's kind of unique to me is right after that, I know that the main languages that are the roots of branches of language are going to be considered Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. But also when you come into the Hebrew understanding, you get into the Phoenician, which you're getting into now Hamitic, Shemitic, and Japhetic. And the Hamites and the Shemites, they mixed and mingled together. The Japhites, they were the ones with that different type of tongue. They were doing their thing on the side. They weren't a part of the main thing that was going on in Middle Earth, right? At all. They weren't a part of that, the empires that way in terms of they weren't ruling yet. The Japhites first started ruling through Alexander the Great when he conquered the black nation of the Medes and the Persians. They were originally black. They're not like how you see how the Arabs are today and the Persians with their straight hair. The original Persians were sheep. And the original languages, when you talk about ancient languages and linguistics with people, they're going to talk about the phonetic language or the Phoenician. And that's just another Greek term for Canaanite. And so when Abraham, you think about Abraham, Ur of the Chaldees, he lived in Ur of the Chaldees. He came over to the land of Canaan. And when he came there was a similarity in languages spoken. And we see that in the scriptures, Abraham is the first, well, Abram, before he even got his name changed, was the first to be called in Hebrew because he lived in Mamre around those Hebronites as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hebron is a very big part of Israel. And even though they try to make it seem like Hebrew, the word Hebrew is from the word aperu or eberu to mean crossover, and Hebron is kabron to mean something else, they're playing around again. Because Hebron is a big place where, Abraham was called a Hebrew. King David was first anointed and had his palace in Hebron at first, right? All of these understandings are very important. But my point I want to make is that the same language that the Hamites were speaking, which we would call Hebrew, is the same language that the Shemites were speaking. Abraham never brought the language of Hebrew to the Hamites or to Canaan. He adopted it, just like how the Israelites adopted their homes, adopted their land, and all of that. It became a part of who they were. And the Israelites, spoke that language of the language of Canaan. In the Bible, it's called the language of Canaan.
That's right.
Right? Which would be anciently Phoenician or Canaanite, or we could even call it the Hebrew. But the Hebrew wasn't only spoken by Israelites, nor was it first spoken by Israelites. But over time, it stuck to them, right? It stuck to them greatly in a great way. I don't want to get into that right now, but I want you to think. So if you look at all these Hamitic languages, whether you're talking about anything in Africa, let me see, I think I have a thing, even Asiatic languages, whether you're talking about Egyptian, Shemitic, Amharic, Arabic, Cushitic, Canaanite, Ethiopian, South Semitic, Ometic, Berber, Chadian. All of these languages are ancient African Black languages, and they all had the J sound in it. They did. Right. And you think about this too. The Gentiles who control this language now and revived it under this guy we're going to talk about soon. The Gentiles come and they say, oh, this is the new Hebrew. And it was considered a dead language for almost 1600 years before they revived it and changed all things. And now they bring it back. And then when man is going to quote me about Hebrew linguistics and stuff like that, he's going to use their Gentile, their Hebrew doctrines and understandings and references and talk about, well, the Hebrew says there's no J, this and that. And you're following these Gentile guys who did it. Yiddish. This is the problem. These guys are part of the lie. They're the ones who help to make people brainwashed. The devil's seen down the line that people are going to recognize that they're Israelites. So let me just set up some falsehood here for them too, so that when they come in, they'll be just like ancient Israel as well and graft towards wickedness as well and think that, hey, we got to speak the language, we got to have the flesh blood thing, we got to have the lineage. Deception by the devil.
That's
great
right.
Deceptions. You go and try to find out if there's any J sound in all these Black languages. And then these Gentiles come. Latin don't have no J sound. Greek don't have no J sound. That's right, because they're different manner of people, man. See, there's 3 modern branches of languages when the Messiah was on the earth.
John chapter 19, verse 19. And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jehoshua the Nazarite, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, For the place where Joshua was crucified was near to the city, and was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin.
Correct. So there's two things here. You heard Brother Javed say Joshua the Nazarite, or you want to say Jesus the Nazarite, and then the scripture says Jesus of Nazareth. That's all kind of folly too, of Nazareth. He's Jesus the Nazarite. They know that already, and we'll prove that probably later on today or maybe next week. But we have the three modern branches of languages, as you can see right here, right? And whether it's exact script, I'm not, getting into that. But the red here represents the Gentiles, right? And their redness. This is their language. Greek and Latin is their languages. The Hebrew was of the black people's language. So we have the black true Hebrew language because there was many Jews, right? This title then read many of the Jews, right? And of course, the Israelites back then were trilingual. Most people over in Africa, believe it or not, can speak 4 or 5 languages and branches of language. It's something that they just grow up with, right? It's part of how it is. Most of us now are, speak one language, and then if some people are good, it's bilingual, and you can get better. But the point here I want to make is that, if this was supposed to be the true Hebrew, it was for the black Jews, the Israelites. These are all for the Gentiles speaking that way. And so their first letter, their I, their iota, what do you want to call it, the yod being a Y or a J, it would be different because they don't have that same tongue framing thing. You ever speak to some Spanish people? It's not dissing them, but they have a hard pronunciation with certain sounds like the J sound, and even sometimes with SH sound. Even in scriptures, we see that there's called the shibboleth syndrome, where some Israelites, the Ephraimites, couldn't even say shibboleth. They would say shibboleth. They couldn't say it without the SH, or vice versa. Meaning that our tongues can frame certain things. And the 10th letter of the alphabet, what they call a yod, which we call a jad or a jod, is an affricative palatal. And we'll talk about those things too. These are consonantal sounds. And I don't know if much people are doing any research on this, but I do know that there's a lot of lies, that's for sure. There's 3 kind of scriptural types of Hebrew, they say. We have the proto, the paleo, and the modern. And you've seen all these, the pictograph, and everybody says they know for sure how to read this thing. I lie them, I tell. They're just putting in their things. I know that, and I can prove that too. They have, this is the Father's name, and this is not dealing with, this symbol here deals with the E, and they know that. This is not what you call it, an aleph or an alpha or, a letter A. No, it's not. It's an E, and they know that, but they wouldn't say UA. They try to still say the Yahweh and whatever. And then they're going to combine, the idea of what save and salvation is with, with the Father's name, and then add it to the, add the word salvation to it and come up with the Messiah's name. So there's 3 types of Hebrew. And of course, people today, of course, why not? They can speak the ancient. They know the pictographs. They know how it was pronounced, this and that. And I know people, I can read their charts and learn the language off of the fake charts that they give me too. But it's not all true at all. And you know me, I keep saying this big talk. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I'm going to prove everything that I'm talking about, hopefully today, especially with languages. So all this understanding here, and then having the Messiah's name, like there's a short version of the Father's name, they would say, I call it the root, and the long version. So people will say normally, Yah, right? And we say Jah. And then the longer version for the J people might be Jehovah, Jehovah. And then the long version for people with the Y would be Yahuwah, Yehovah, Yahweh, right? Yehovah. But we deal with Jah and Yah just to keep that little bit of confusion out the way, because that's just a whole nother argument. Is it Hova, Hawa, Hoa? What are the pronunciations? There's no vowels in the Hebrew? Like, that's a lie too. How can you have no vowels? Do you know a vowel is not even made by closing your lips? You can say A, I, O, U. You can't even say U, probably because you have to close your mouth, because the U is pronounced with a Y sound. So you have to go U. But if you do the U sound, U, ah, O, E, A. But people say, no, those sounds don't exist in the ancient, Lashan, Kodesh, and all of them kind of thing there. Does that make sense to you? That the only vowel sound was ah? So everything's going to be ah, ba, ga, da, la, like the Sanskrit, of the Indians' alphabet? That's what these guys use, the Sanskrit Indian alphabet to proclaim the abba, gaba. Yeah. Just use the short form name. If it was like, even if people say Yahweh Shai, it would be the short form. It's not going to be Yahweh. It'd be Yashai or however it be. It's not going to have, you don't say like, it might sound right, Jehovah Shua or, Jehovah Shua. No, it'll be the contracted form, as they would call it, and compounding with words. You don't compact the long word there because Hawa means something as well. And Yah or Jah means something by itself as well. You see what I'm saying? Making sense, Brother D?
Yes, Brother Sean.
And the name save, is it Shua or Shah? Right? Usha or Shah? A brother pointed out to me, today, and I've also knew it as before, but you know that Usha is the name of a pagan Indian goddess, actually the daughter of a pagan Indian goddess, Usha, right? I'm just saying, I'm not knocking things. I'm saying you got to think. Is it Shua, Yahshua, or Yahusha? All they've done is taken the U out of the Shua and put it in front of the SH to give you, Usha. I just want you to think. Even these three languages of translations, you heard people know, of course, it would be either in the Hebrew, the Greek, and some will have Latin as well, but you also hear about this Aramaic, because the Latin deals with the Greek, but the Aramaic. So this three understanding, when you're reading the Holy Scriptures, they will tell you it's either in Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic. And the parts that were in Aramaic were like parts like Daniel. The Apocrypha was probably a lot of Aramaic and Greek, a combination within the Apocrypha. Whereas the New Testament, and people claim that there was a Hebrew, but more or less it's a Greek Aramaic flavor is in there as well. So again, I'm just kind of pointing out the idea of this three here, and I hope you know about them and learning something as well, because then you investigate what's going on and you start to uncover the lies. This is the the first to the 11 letters that you can find in your Bible. If you go to Psalms 119, you can get the Aleph Bet, as they would call it, where you get the word alphabet, and you can get from the 22 characters from the Aleph down to the Ta, and I've taken them from various different translations. As you can see, in the yellow is the original 1611, where they say there's no J sound, and the Geneva 1560. Then you have the revised 1638. You have the more newer translations like the New King James further on, and then the sounds that they represent, and how it's written in these books too. They will write it as Aleph with the PH sound, with the F for the F sound, and then also you can have the F for F sound. I mean, I've always found that weird to myself, how PH makes a F sound, like, for phone, when, it's like, why didn't they just use the F, right? But anyways, we can go on and on about English. Then we have the Gimel, the Daleth, D. But now we come to this letter number 6. Yo, suspicious 6 is what I call him. The Vav, the Va, or the Wa. And this Wa, when you bring it into other languages, it's an F, a V, a U, a W, and a Y. Oh, yeah. And all of these guys, scholarly stuff, they will translate this 6th letter, 6. Remember the 6 double thing? And they will mess that up. And guess what they even do? You're going to find out. They even make this 6th letter. Sometimes they mix it up with the Jad or the Yad or the 10th letter, and they say, I got the document. Oh, well, sometimes they can mix them up. It could be a Wa or a Jad or Yad or a Wa. It all depends. And you like, why are they mixing up these letters? Yeah, they're mixing up this letter Y with another Y or the J or the I. You got to be wise. And then when you look at the 10th letter, which is the important one that we usually talk about because that's the first letter of the Most High's name professed in the world, we have it's spelled with an IOD in the 1611 and the 1560 Geneva Bible. The modern will be JOD, and then Hebraic translations and the New King James Version will put the Y. So you have Iod, where you get your iota from, or Iod, if you want how you pronounce it. They say it's supposed to be pronounced like a Y, and that's why you have the Yod. But that's another thing. The I wasn't always a Y in the scriptures. Remember, the letter Y is sometimes a vowel and sometimes a consonant. It's a little deceiver. And guess what? It works the same way in Hebrew too. It's a big deceiving letter because the Yahoo guys like that. That's what they love. So it has these three letters, the I, the J, and the Y. And that's what we mostly argue about and talk about a lot nowadays is these three letters. And if I use the J instead of a Y, I'm preaching a false doctrine too. And I don't say people who are using Y teaching a false doctrine. I listen. Usually the false doctrine usually comes attached to the Messiah's name, though. That usually happens. But this is what I'm just showing you out, that there's showing you is that there's this little understanding here because it leads to something else. Again, IJY, suspect letter Y. Y is so suspicious and incredible. So as I was just talking about, this is in the King James original where they had, this is called the Gothic script, or what's another word for it? They call it Gothic and calligraphy, right?
Yes.
Calligraphy writing. You can see, look at the letter I right there, that I may, it looks like a J too, right? Because this letter they're playing with, because that looks like a letter J to me. But of course, where it is, it's an I. But we'll get into that more. And then when we go to, again, start moderating ourselves, you see that this 10th letter. And if you want to go, Psalms 119, verse 73 is where you find the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Yod, Jod, or the Yod, right? So this is, just want you to see it, so you can know that we're not making up these things. And look at that little thing. Isn't that a little cute? It's like a Jod, a Yod, right? It's supposed to be the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet, right? Even the Messiah said, did the Messiah say not one jot or tittle will come, and then they'll change it to say iota, but they'll say they're referring to the Yod because the Yod is the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet, which it is. So remember that. If the Yod is the smallest character and it's supposed to be looking like this right here, right? That's supposed to, there's other understanding of it, but that's how it's supposed to be. You flip this around, it's a J, but let's go on further. When you read Psalms chapter 68, verse 4, one of my favorite Psalms of showing that the name is Jah, or if you want to show people it's the name Yah in your English Bibles, that's pretty good because, for the most part, you won't get it. And the name Jah appears in the scriptures 49 times. Yeah, 7 times 7. And then, of course, with the longer version, Jawa, Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahuwah, that'll be when they talk about that over 7,000 times or over 6,000 times. That's what they're talking about. But 50 times for sure with the original root form of the Father's name. And Brother Javed, give us a read.
Psalm 68, verse 4. Sing unto God, sing praises unto his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Jah, and rejoice before him.
Now, when you read the original King James 1611, this is the modern 1611, it would be spelled like this, I-A-H, or in the calligraphy, it's spelled like this, I-A-H. That's how it's written in those books. When you get to the common KJV, as we know, the Jah, the New King James Version, or Hebrew scriptures, any Hebrew scriptures, whether it's, the new ones that are coming out here, would put Yah. And then one thing, the deception is great that they are hiding the Most High's name, whether Jah or Yah, is that the modern English versions, they put the Lord. And I usually use this understanding to help people know that, hey, man, you see, they're playing around with the name. All the other older scriptures say that there was a name there. And then now the modern translations, the NIV, the ARV, the RIV, all of those versions, they take out the name and they put the Lord. And so when they get to see that, or you can show other people, you get to see, oh, there's a problem. And then that's how you can teach people to say, anytime you see the word the Lord, it's the name of the Father, Yah or Jah.
That's right.
So that's how you get this understanding in order to show people. And I like, really, if you have a King James version and other people are using it, or even a New King James for the Yah, for those people who want to show it, Psalm 68 verse 4 is a key verse. And again, the three letters. This is supposed to be this tetragrammaton, the JHWH, YHWH, IHVH. Again, the focus is on these letters. To me, the tetragrammaton doesn't make no sense. I think that's false still. And I'll tell you why, but later. But I don't know, calling the Most High's Hebrew name, giving it a scholarly name of the tetragrammaton. Tetra is Greek for four. Grammaton is for letters or characters. And to call the Hebrew stuff tetragrammaton is this.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Suspect scholarship right off the bat. So when you read your King Psalm 68 verse 4, and like I was showing you in these standard Bibles, sing unto God, sing praises to his name, they'll put his name is the Lord. That's not even a name, right? Whose name is the Lord. But you'll see that if it's the New King James Version, the other King James, like I said, Jah or Yah. All these other versions here as well, some of them will put the Lord, but other versions will put Yahweh, or some will put Yahweh. They'll put Jehovah, and of course, this version here has Jah. So you can see there's an kind of a little bit of a trick to this. And even when it comes to titles of the Most High, people will say God, and nobody, people who are in the Hebraic understand they don't use the term God, so they'll say El or Elohim. El is the root word for Elohim, meaning a uniplural word. Or as you know, many people now who are using the Yahuwah and the Yahusha are also dealing with the Alua as well. And if you're familiar with people, so Alua, if you ever hear people use the term Alua, that is like saying God. It's a title. It's not the name. Yahuwah would be the name. Alua would be the title, right? Same with El. Some people say it shouldn't be El because other Canaanite gods were named El. Well, we have Israel, we have Elijah, we have Joel, we have Elizabeth. We have so many L's going around that, if that's the generic term at that time for God, then it's just like today. I can really say that Yah is the God of Israel and be correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I say he's the Elohim of Israel, I'd be correct too, and the El of Israel or the Alua. So it's because of the generic usage of the word. Now, we don't like to use the word God because it can be translated back to pagan gods. But if you're going to stifle communication when you're talking to somebody else and you go, no, Yah is the only true Alua. And they're like, what do you mean he's the true Alua? You'd have to say, what I mean is he's the only God, and you have to go through explanations.
Mm.
So it's good when you're communicating with people. Make sure that the communication is to try to win them over to the truth, or not even use win, but to help them come over rather than just to shoot them down if they're using the name Jesus or God and the Lord. In our scholarly reasoning and together we can talk about these things. But in the world, I'm not going to go and use these names to people who are not familiar with them.
That's right.
I'll use what they're familiar with, and then you draw them in, and you might say, hey, who you call Jesus, we say, and you say the name you want to call.
That's right. Lady G has a comment here. I don't trust that tetragrammaton thing, and she has good reason, good comment to make.
That's right. Now I know that the name given to Moses, many people, is Ahaya, right? And we can talk about that. I usually do a lesson on that as well. Again, I'm not here to shoot down certain names, but the thing that was given to Moses as well is like people kind of stop after the I am that I am, and seem like the Most High stopped talking then. When the Most High is having a conversation with Moses, and that I am is a small sentence, and the Father goes on more to talk about his memorial and what his name is. And I think a lot of people, they get stuck at when he says, tell him who he is, and he says I am, and then tell him that I am sent them, and then he says I am that I am. And there's certain play. I did a lesson on that, but a certain play. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I mean, reading further on, you get it. The Father's still talking, revealing his name. And so I find that people who usually go with the Ahaya, they kind of don't go further down. But again, that's neither here nor there. I understand it. That understanding there, yeah. Let's continue going into things. Now, when I'm using these understandings of names here, you're going to see, like, I just, go into your regular Strong's Concordance, not trying to be super scholar, but it's like you can see that they know the IYJ thing as well. This is from Strong's Concordance. If you look up the word Isaac, look what it says. It says Yitzhak, right? And then it goes on to say what it might be. Then you even have there, look at that, Jitzak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the I for Isaac. So again, I'm just using a little bit of wisdom, and people will say stuff about the Strong's Concordance. Well, that J shouldn't be there, never came into this and that. There's a reason why Strong's left that in there, right? I'm telling you, there's a reason why that's in there, because you have the I, you have the Y. Why the man is going to put it, even when the names like Miriam is Merjam, Zachariah is Zakarja, in your Strong's. Now, Strong's Concordance inspired by the Most High and Scripture? No, it's a tool that we utilize, and many people utilize it, especially when they want to help people understand certain doctrines. So we utilize it fully. I mean, even look at the name Ishmael, Yishmael, Jishmael. There's the Y. There's the I. There's the J. You see there in Ishmael.
Yeah.
Why are they
Right.
putting that there, right? You got to ask yourself why they're putting that there.
Yeah.
Something was it what they knew back then. I mean, I have an old Strong's Concordance from this. Strong's Concordance is like old, very old, very, very, very old. And it's a Strong's Concordance, probably about maybe 70 or 80 years old, because Strong's came out in, I think, the 1800s, or just after the 1800s. But I see the J in here as well, greatly as well. And that's what turned me on to go check out things even online, blueletterbible.org. And like, why are these things there?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a part of the deception? Some people say it's there to deceive people, but I don't hear nobody's talking about the J, the Jitsak, and even Jisrael. You have Yisrael, you have Israel, of course, right there, and then you have Jisrael. And there's even a name in the scriptures that referring to Israel, and it's Jezreel. You ever heard that name, Jezreel?
Yep.
Jezreel. It's another pet name. And this is why you'll hear us sometimes say Jezreel, because we know certain things. And Jezreel is another pet name with the letter J for the Israelites. Now, I'm not fighting against Y and I and everything right now, but it's just better you get a full understanding, because I think that there's a little bit of ignorance here. And I mean, people will ignore this information. Right? When I say the word ignorance, it's like, oh, who cares? We already heard that there's no J sound, but it's like, why do we stop there? Why don't we investigate a little bit more? And when you
Mm-hmm.
do that, you start to see that these guys, and when I say these guys, do you know who those guys are who have control of all the scholarly books and reference books and these languages? They know they cannot commit the perfect crime. So as you know, you look up Psalm 68 verse 4, you got Jah. And like I said, it appears as Lord 48 times, and you got Jah, at the bottom here, it's Yah. You see it right there. And notice what it says here. Compare names in with Ayah. Ayah. It says Jah. It says Yah. Yah. Contraction of 3, 6 to 8. That's we have the long version, meaning the same. Jah, the sacred name. Jah, the Lord. Most. What does it say there?
Most vehement.
That's what Jah means. Believe it or not. Yeah. You see, when I look up this word here, most vehement, and I looked it up in this phrase here, right here, it says, you see Songs 8 verse 6,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes on to say something that says, which hath a most vehement flame. I looked it up, and it took me to 3050, which is Jah.
Wow.
And
Look at that.
vehement means power, strength, or force, and it could even have an understanding with existing one. But the way they did this, though, it's like you can't just go there and find it. You have to click on their tools, and then they're going to tell you, oh, this is what the word means. It's a phrase. So what I've kind of seen is that Yah means all powerful, most powerful, because, most, all, very, the
Mm-hmm.
strongest, eternal, right? If you say somebody's eternal, that means they're very powerful. Who can be more powerful than an eternal being?
That's right.
This is why people recognize the Most High's name must mean eternal one. Even I am that I am means he is who he is, or he that exists will be, or he who will be who he is. And that's what the Ahaya and Heya, depending if you're doing it with an A or an E. But again, yeah, you look up the most vehement, and it's going to take you to that. And boy, it's just kind of weird. But nonetheless, Brother Javed, what do you think about that one there?
Yeah, man. I see what you're saying, man. And good. It's good that you bring these things out.
Mm. So I want to take a little bit of a look at the false Hebrew language and the Jewish, Yiddish, European Yod. And I purposely spelled these things like this. Excuse me. Because there's a lot of play with this Y here. And I'm just going to show you. I'm not shooting down Yah. I use it. But I do believe that Yah is dealing with the Greek and the Latin languages as the name of the Messiah. So when it was in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, the Gentiles controlled the Y. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe. But let's get into it. Let's see. Now, here's Eliezer Ben Yehuda. If you don't know, haven't heard of him, he is the inventor of the modern Hebrew. Believe it or not, though, as all of these ish people are, they love to change up their names.
That's
Did you
true.
do you know
That's
that
true.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the president of that place, Israel, his name is really, his last name is Makojevic, Malakovic or something, Makovic. Yeah,
Hmm.
Makovic. His name is really Benjamin Makolovic, but them man they change up their name to make it sound Hebraic with the
Great. Yeah.
Netanyahu thing. And this guy's name he is known as Eliezer ben Yehuda, but before he changed his name, he was just Eliezer Perlman.
Mm.
And he's not even like of Hebrew or descent or anything of that, which we know they
Wow.
say they're the Hebrew. He's a Lithuanian too.
Wow. Surprise, surprise. They love to change their identity.
Love to change. That should make a say it
Liars.
again. You see
They
that the
love to
identity
change their
change?
identity. They'll change their name to fit who they pretend to be.
Exactly. And we have to
Liars.
recognize that. And that's all I want you to do. Don't just think that what they give you as Hebrew is it. And if it's all that we got, well, then look into their things. Why are they so adamant about there's no letter J or J sound? Especially the sound. Don't talk about when the letter J came in, because the letter I carried the J sound way before the letter J was even in as its hook. Even though you can see the hook letter J, even though it doesn't represent the J sound, but it's in the Hebrew alphabet as a hook. And we got to use our wisdom.
Right. They know the J sound is prominent in Black languages.
That's right. Very prominent. That's why when Rastas give it the Jah, and they say they're all thinking right after that, very powerful. The J sound is an affricative palatal masculine sound. The Ya, the Y, the Ya, believe it or not, it's not masculine, it's feminine. I'm just telling you that. I'm just letting you know. I'm not trying to say Ya is feminine or that obviously, but I just want to let you know that the Y is a feminine, not I think it's a palatal, but it's not an affricative palatal, which means it has a has a thing to it. A normal palatal is just yes, ya, ja, ya, ja. You see the difference, right?
Mhm.
So what we're saying here is that today's Hebrew is a Gentile revived language. Even their guys talk about this Hebrew is fake. Yeah, their own people will tell you. You will go look for these videos. They'll say all of this is kind of politically motivated. This ancient Hebrew from also the archaeological, where they get their tetragrammaton, that's suspect. And again, believe you me, this pseudo Hebrew isn't scriptural Hebrew. You might think it is, and that's okay. We'll deal with what we got right now. But don't you think for a second that these guys are going to come revive the true language? They hate the true people. They're imitating them. So what makes you think they're going to come revive something that's going to be anywhere near the truth? As a matter of fact, it seems like this world, and especially with the power of Satan, they love to kind of go like opposites all the time. We have a
Mhm.
black Messiah, they have a white one. I believe that the Jays are part of the true Hebrews, the Judahites, and the Benjamites. And when the northern tribes split up and went into, Samaria and started speaking Aramaic, that's where their Y came in. Yeah. You can see that in history and in books. That's neither here nor there. I'm just making you think today. Glory to the Father and Son. You see, this Moabite thing where this is it scaled up and they get the tetragrammaton and everybody wear it around their neck and feel like, me I wear the most high name for myself. And do you know that this is a Moabite stone written
Mhm.
by Moabites? It's not written by anything named Hebrew at all. It's right here. It says there, the Moabite stone was discovered in 1868. This is when their tetragrammaton started, eh?
Mhm.
You got to
Yeah.
just do your own research, because I'm tired of like always saying the same thing online to people. And I'm not talking to you, the brothers and sisters who are listening. I'm just talking about the people don't know stuff and they come and run you down like, oh, and everybody thinks they have the truth. I was like, did you even check it out? No. So people tell you stuff, you're just gonna sit there and say and believe it and throw your hands back. It's because we want these things, but you're gonna gravitate to what's there first. But this is all, I can't even get into it. Israel, it says Yahweh. People use Yahweh. It says House of David. And they'll use the Yahweh man especially, and the Yahweh Shaiman will say, this is what it is. And this Moabite imprinting, because Moabite was similar to the Hebrew. All right, a lot of things are similar to the Hebrew, but it wasn't the Hebrew. Right? It wasn't the Hebrew. There's a lot of languages. French and Spanish are similar, but they're different. So I don't know why people think that this thing, I just use it because I know other people are using it, but I don't believe they're garbage. These guys finding a stone from the Moabites somewhere, and then they're going to say these 4 letters are the Most High's name, and it means Yod He Vahe.
Yeah.
Oh no, man! It just burns me that people just stop so short of researching and checking it out because they just want to have something to gravitate to. But this is whole suspect right here. This Moabite stone is supposed to be the Hebrew name called by a Greek terminology, tetragrammaton. How much confusion can you get? A Moabite stone, where is it even found? I don't even know where we're, not found in Israel. This is where people get the name, the tetragrammaton, the Yah, the 4 letters from. This is where it starts from, family.
Yeah.
And then they go to the Dead Sea Scrolls and use the Qumran text as well to try to verify things.
And people will believe it is true. People will believe that it's authentic, coming from these Gentile scholars.
Yeah. Just like how the Ethiopians say that the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia. What kind of foolishness is that? Protected by a priest, a Falasha priest. Too much little lies going on, especially with archaeology and history. And we just got to kind of look back a little bit and start figuring out what's going on. This thing is so suspect. Again, they talk about the Chinese ancestors of the Chinese because the Moabites are supposed to be related to the Chinese people. That's even dumb. How could the Moabites be Chinese people and they come from black man them? Moab and Ammon. People say, yeah, that's, China and Japan. The Chinese people come from Japheth, bro.
Clearly.
They don't come from the bloodline of Abraham. Abraham and Lot were family and cousins or nephews or whatever, uncle and nephew. And then, Lot's daughters slept with him because they thought the world was over and everything like that. And then they had other black children. Why are people calling Moabites and Ammonites Chinese? Because they've been deceived again. Look at this is why it is. The ancestors of the Chinese race, the Moabites. I have to mock it because the people mock the truth. So why not mock the falsehood? Folly, tetragrammaton. Folly, 4 letters, pretending. And all right, here's the last thing. What is it? That Jod, right? The Jod. It's supposed to be the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Jod right here. Looks pretty big to me. Don't look like the smallest letter at all. Well, obviously, because that's a Moabite stone from Chinese people that giving to the Hebrew people, giving it a Greek name so that we can say, oh, yeah, this is what his name is. And it had to be a Y because there's no Y. If you find these guys in 1 or 2, 3 lies, don't you think they're going to lie about most things?
Of course.
The Pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton, A Historical Linguistic Approach. This is actually a pretty good book. I have this book right here. And I was recommended this book by some Gentile guys still to start to go into it and starting to see things. But basically, I'm not going to read this because I know we have time. But they've studied. They know that when the Israelite tribes divided and the 10 tribes were the northern kingdom and Judah and Benjamin became the southern kingdom, the southern kingdom stuck to the true dialect. Whereas the northern kingdom, because remember, they were carried away by the Assyrians and they got mixed up, whereas they became Samaritans. And the Jews said they didn't even deal with them. Salvation is of the Jews, not of Samaria, even though the Samaritans are Israelites. Remember the Samaritan woman at the well?
Right. Yeah.
Right? She said, our father Jacob came to this well. So she's saying that she is an Israelite, but they got watered down. They mixed and mingled with the heathen nations. And I do believe that's where that fake Hebrew even started in Israel, which is called Aramaic. And they brought in the Aramaic business, and the Aramaic loves to profess that there's no Y. But that's not the true language. That was just the language that the people then were speaking around that time. People even say that Messiah was speaking Aramaic. That's what he talked. He spoke Aramaic, the Hebrew Messiah. Anyways, after they divided, and then also when the Israelites, the Benjamites and the Jews went into Babylon, they picked up the Babylonian things. And that's why when the Israelites came back out of Babylon, everything was messed up. The calendar, all kind of stuff was messed up. But this book here, lets you know good things. I don't want to get into how they talk about the Jad sound, how it was applied to names only of those of the Southern Kingdom, and the Y was applied to the Northern Kingdom. But I didn't expect to do this lesson today because I was really working on it. But I don't know whether it was the zeal came upon me that I had to bring out some of it. So you see me, of course, always doing this chart because I'm very interested in understanding this concept here of what names are going on, and this tetragrammaton and that tetragrammaton and that tetragrammaton. You got your modern, your proto, your paleo, and you got the Ja, Ya, Aya. If you look at this chart, for the most part on this chart is the professed names that most people will use in the world, regarding the Father and Son's name. Now, I'm not saying that all of these names I use and I think they're all correct. I think there's some really bad translations of the Messiah's name. Jesus being one of them, or Jesus being one. The next one, believe it or not, where is it? Yahusha, I think is a bad translation, and Yahushai for sure. But I respect those names when I'm dealing with people because I can't bother to get into it because I'm only going to get into it if they get into it. And usually you want to see, are people checking out what the ayin means and the shin and the hadve when these guys talk about accents? Are they really looking into things? And, and the Yahweh, when is the ha? Now, how come it's not Yahweh ha? Like, what is it? If it's a ha after every, there's a special rule that after a certain amount of letters, it stops there. Right? It's just all these little rules that is so secret and known to these people. Guess what? They say that Proto-Paleo language, they say it's the original true language of Adam.
The Adamic language?
The Adamic language. The Most High came and he messed up that language at the Tower of Babel. What? Now what? People, they found the books for it? It was really Hebrew? What? Did they get... The Most High divided the languages, man. That language was not spoken anymore. It was divided up. So people trying to say the Lashon HaKodesh is the Adamic language. So this chart here is a good chart just for people to know and understand. And I respect, as you can see, there's the Ahaya, the Eye. I respect when people come to their understanding. But I don't like the big scholar boys that are affecting our minds when we go and try to research the name. That's my issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what's going on. And this chart here, again, is a good chart. Many truths on this chart and some fake ones. But I do gravitate to the J for many, many reasons, to separate and sanctify the J, but not Jesus. So, there's a European Jesus, corrupted name of the Messiah, false representation of the true Israelites, right? Because they have the fake Jews and stuff. False prophecies regarding representation and false prophecies of the Israelites. I think what's his name was talking about that yesterday. Truth Unedited.
Unedited, yeah.
Yeah, he did a good one still yesterday on that. I like it.
It's pretty good.
I like his braveness too. His braveness is helping me. It can be contagious because you know how these guys can shut your things down quick time if you talk against them. But if God's for you, Yah's for you. Who's going to be against you, right?
That's right.
We don't fear them. But yeah, there's all kind of doctrines linked up with this guy. No law, eat what you want. Christmas, you don't deal with the festivals. Even some of them deal with idols. When people die, they say heaven is the reward. They believe in the Trinity or Jesus is the Father. All of that is encapsulated into a false understanding and doctrine of what you call mainstream Christianity's Jesus. Now, I read the Bible and I see the name Jesus there, so I don't shoot it down. It's a bad translation, yes. If I'm talking to a Christian, am I going to use it? Yeah, for a little bit to help them out, because I know what's really behind that. There are Black Hebrew Israelites, right? I didn't say why I say Black Hebrew Israelites. There are Black Israelites, or there are Israelites that use the name Jesus as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. They don't get into the Hebrew thing too, and I could see sometimes you get into too much of the Hebrew, it just becomes confusing. And that's why I stick to Jah or Yah, because you don't have to go too far. It's in almost every Bible. But then you got the whole other aspect of this understanding as well. When people, we don't need to say Hebrew Israelite, but since that's what they want to go under, I'm going to have to terminate, give them that term too. The Hebrew Israelite, Yahusha individuals, they say that this understanding of these names comes from the Paleo Hebrew, and so they follow the only Y. They understand the true Israelites. That's true, but they have false prophecies regarding the true Israelites. And I do not say this about everyone. As much as there's different Christian denominations within Christianity, the same thing that there's many different sects and congregations, or if you want to use the word denomination, what do you call it? Camps. Camps is the word that they use in Israel, in the Israel community too, as well. So I understand that. I'm not blanketing saying all Israelites say this and all of them. There's arguments about the names and all of that. I get it. But I'm just saying from a lot of the teachings I've seen that are attached to Yahushai and Yahusha, is these things is what I see. Not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure I put that out there. So again, observing the laws. However, though, they keep the false astronomical festivals with the equinoxes and solstices. Some use lunar months, others use the Enochian calendar or the calendar of Enoch, or what do they call it? The Zadok calendar. Some teach that only blood Israelites can get salvation. That's going to hurt you. They don't believe in the Lot, don't believe in the virgin birth. And they also, many people believe that angels had sex as well with women. And a lot of individuals also ignore the Messiah's strict commandments. When he says, love your neighbor, pray for your neighbor, people want to say, who's my neighbor? It's only Israel. Or when he says, pray for your enemies, you have to know what's going on. The Messiah was a light to his people and to the rest of the nations. So some individuals can come to him. All of Esau or Edom was not coming in at all. There is a handful. There are heathens and Gentiles and other nations who are called by the Most High's name. He says that so many times in the Bible. So we can't go against that. But as a nation, Egypt ain't getting in. Esau ain't getting in. The Philistines ain't getting in. The Assyrians ain't getting in. As a nation, the Israelites are coming in, but only the obedient Israelites, the faithful Israelites. So that's how the nation thing works. Those other nations aren't coming in, but individuals from those nations can come in. These have to leave that nation. They have to, give up your citizenship. You know what I mean? And become engrafted into Israel.
They have to convert.
That's right. So again, I know even individuals have, the Messiah and showing him this and that, or the Father. No, he has to have locks. And do I care what their picture is? No. But again, there's going to be a false depiction. This false image too. You see how they made his eyes red and everything? IUIC also teach that the Messiah, when he was on earth, he would drink wine. And if your eyes get red, you have to be drinking a lot of wine too. You're almost calling him a drunkard.
Yeah, basically.
Your eyes aren't going to go red, so red from drinking wine, a glass of wine. If your eyes go red, you have to be sipping on the leaves, boy.
Yeah, that means he's intoxicated, drunk.
Yeah. But the Messiah, when he came on earth, he never drank any wine at all. But the translators also have their hand in things. So again, you've seen all these things where there's different black depictions of the Messiah, and the sweet boy dread style with his trim up beard and thing, and another sweet boy. And I know that Nazarites, they don't trim nor groom their beard that way. Any grooming is done by hand. You don't even use a comb, because when you comb your hair, you ever comb your hair and hair comes out, or pick it and brush it? So when Nazarites were under the vow, nothing don't come on their head in terms of any object. If it's their own hand or their parents' hand or something like that, or their wife or their spouse, but their beard grows fully, no trimming up in here. And I'm not a Nazarite. People can, groom yourself, and as long as you don't take this away and you don't kind of mess up your beard. But otherwise, if you want to grow it out full too, Father loves that too. He's not into us changing our appearance just for the world. But if you want to have your own little groom, fine. But I have to let you know that the Messiah, these kind of images of the Messiah is showing you a false gospel Messiah. Very false. But our images, again, they don't make a doctrine. But boy, as they say, when you know them by their fruits, you know what I mean, D?
Yeah.
You see, people talk about the letter J is no more than 600 years old, and how can a man 2,000 years have the name Jesus? It's impossible for Jesus to be the name above all names. I agree. His name wouldn't have been Jesus. But then they go on no letter J in the Hebrew, who is Jehovah and Jesus. And again, I agree, Jesus and Jehovah might be erroneous translations, but not because of the letter J. Not at all. It might be the rest of how things are going on, how they've operated on it. There's a few lies here. Go ahead, brother, and read those for me, please.
Yeah, a few lies over the J sound is one. There is no J sound or soft G sound in the original Black Hebrew, Gentile, Greek, or Latin. Two, there were no ancient symbols that represented the J sound or soft G sound. Three, there was no J letter in any language. Four, the J sound was invented by European Gentiles to replace the Creator's name. Five, the letter J or J type never existed until the 1500s and therefore is unscriptural. Six, the letter J isn't in the 1611 edition of the King James Version. Mute Sean.
So, I say all of these are lies, and rightly so they are. I mean, just think about it. If somebody's going to talk about the letter J never came into existence and everything else, how do you pronounce the word George? How do you pronounce the word generation? Do you say generation? Right? You think about this. If you're going to use the word sojourner, did they say sojourner?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't.
Yeah. It's a silly argument.
The J sound, you can see even in the word, like I love the word judge because it has two J sounds, one in the beginning for the
One in
J,
the
and then has the J, which is the DGE. That makes the J sound. So what? Was there no letter G in, that new as well? You see, everything is silly when you think about it because they carry the same type of sound. And the letter G is the seventh character, and the letter J was the 10th character. I love those numbers, 7 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, again, you think about that, right? You don't have to, I'm not telling nobody to say John, Joshua at all. We say because we're just going to sanctify that name, because when I look around, I don't see anybody calling on the name Jehoshua, right? And then when I see people calling on the name Jah, there are some people who do it still in the Christian type of world, but you'll only see Rastas use that. So we're trying to sanctify the name. I'm not forcing anybody to say the name, but again, a lot of lies out there by the European Gentiles. I mean, when you look at, this is what they tell you, and they say the letter J wasn't invented until 1524 by, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Giorgio? No, it's Gian Giorgio or Gian Giorgio. This is the name Gian Giorgio. So the same guy who invented the letter J, even though he has J sounds letters, the sound in his name, even though it's with a G, he was Jan Giorgio, right? But they don't pronounce it like that.
No.
I just put that there so you can see. But when you just do the trail back, here's a cursive J, here's a J. And a lot of people don't talk about that dot, that jot, that jot. Not one jot or tittle. That's a small letter. It looks like a jot, eh?
Yeah.
Not even like that, And then as you go back, this is how it goes. You start to see it starts to go to the eye-ish, like curve the other way. And then, similar when it comes to here. And then the Romans, before they even came on the scene, the Romans were using the letter J way before the 15. They were using the letter J in that BC business time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the Messiah was on the earth, they had this symbol going on because the Romans were on the scene. And it's a J. They might have used it as not as the J sound. They used it as a numerical value of 1 as well. But to lie and say that it wasn't there, it's not good. Then it went to the I, and the I came from this squiggly thing in the Greek, which went to which you would call they call it the Phoenician, or people would call it the Hebrew, right? The Jod. That's how they're trying to say what's going on. But I mean, all you got to do is do a little trail back, and you see that before the J was on the scene, it was the I. And in order to distinguish between the I consonant and the I vowel sound, the guy put on a J sound because people weren't knowing how to read these things. You see, anytime the letter I came before a vowel in their old English, they had the J sound. More times, 95% of the times.
Yes.
And if it came in front of a consonant, they would just give it or by itself, it would have the vowel sound. That's why the letter I by itself is I. I will go here, right? Notice I said the word will. Remember that. I said will. How do you spell will? W-I-L-L.
Yeah.
I want to show you some other things about this thing too. So the other charts in there, the letter J sound is very ancient. I didn't make this chart. Okay, just found it. When you're coming from the Egyptians as well, following along how the J would come through. This is some people's understanding. This D and this kind of funny looking letter is just the symbol for the J sound. So if you look in your dictionary and let's say it says jam, and then you go into the pronunciation area, they're gonna put this symbol there to let you know that it's an affricative J and not to say yam.
Mm-hmm.
Again, look at this letter up here, which would be this sixth letter called the wa. All of this is not right, but what does this look like? A Y? This looks like a Y.
Why?
In the Greek, this is called ipsil, and all of these are the letters for it as well. All right, let's continue. Again, we see the letter J going back. Right, the development of the letter J, beginning with early North Semitic letter, evolution of both the majuscule or capital letter J and the minuscule or lowercase letter J are shown. So here's the lowercase kind of going back, and then here's the uppercase going back. Notice what it goes back to. It starts to go back from early Greek, the I going back this way. Now, when you said it's the I, remember, this was pronounced with a J sound. We'll get to that. Never got there yet, but, and if it's going to be J sound coming all the way through, then somebody said, no, well, no, when we go to the ancient Hebrew, the J became the Y. And everybody believes it. This is this symbol upside down. Almost looks like a J, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these letters get flipped around. I mean, when you look in the 1611 Geneva Bible, these are words with a G or J sound, right? Gender, genealogy, strange. Do we say stranger?
Nope. Stranger.
We don't say yender. We don't say genealogy. We don't say general or general. We don't say generation. We don't say yentile or gentile or be a gentle person, a yental person. We don't education, educate. We say educate. Some people say educate, but it's even in the dictionary, it's educate. It has an affricative. Soldier or soldier or soldier, but it's pronounced soldier. Even the word age, is it age? Is it aye? These are all words in the 1611 Bible. Knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Angels, what about the angels or the angels that are coming? And I know, in the true Hebrew, angels were called malak and all of this, and there's a completely different understanding when it comes to the Hebrew names and interpretations and all that translations. I'm just trying to tell you, when you start to follow, we're going back in time. So here we are, and we're moving back, and you start to see, hey, once you start going back, there's something weird. But if they just say, oh, there's no letter J or J sound in the Hebrew, see, the 1500 didn't start, and then we stop there, well, you got to do a thing back and trace it back. Right? As we see here as well, these are words spelled with an I representing the J sound in the 1611. So these are normal words spelled with an I representing these sounds here. So we have jealous. It was spelled. This is how it's spelled. IELOUS. So how do we pronounce that letter? Do we pronounce it jealous because there's no J? Does that I represent a Y?
No.
You could say maybe it does. Jealous. And even the word ja. I mean, ja. Right? It's spelled IAW. Jawbone is in there. These are all words from that Bible where there's no letter J's. They say, for the most part, there's very few, but we found them. But even we're in jeopardy. It's spelled. Everything in the red here is what's in the original King James Version. And I just want to ask people this question: like, all right, if this I, the letter J never came in, no problem. Now we have the letter I. Does this I represent the Y sound, or the I sound, or the J sound? What does it represent as we're moving forward? Right? It's not jeopardy. It's not jeopardy. We call it jeopardy. Jesting, not yesting. Iesting. Jewels. EULs. It's jewels. Join. Look at it. Again, my favorite word, judge. There's two J sounds in it. Just. He was a just man. Or was he a just man? Or was he an iest man? Ajalon, Ialon. What about majesty? Was he a majesty? Was he the majesty? Was that what they were saying when there was a letter I there? Were they saying majesty? Or were they saying majesty? They were saying majesty. So that means all these little letter I's in front of vowels, as you can see, carried the J sound.
That's right. That's it.
So we're going to have to reject or reject those lies. I mean, you look at the word rejoice. I love this word. It's spelled there Reioyce. But commonly today we spell it Rejoice. So now we have the I, because the I represents the J sound, because it's not rejoice. But look at the I there as a vowel. What letter is it representing now?
The Y sound.
Now it's the letter Y. Yeah, look at rejoice. The Y there is not carrying a Y sound. It's not reoyise. It's not carrying a Y consonant sound. It's carrying an I vowel sound. Yet there's a letter I. Look at like this word here to me should let you see things that they are playing around. And I believe that the Gentile, Yiddish, Yahuzi, European Gentiles, they don't like the J sound. It's too black for them. So they took it out and they replaced it with their white, letter Y. Sorry, not white. I mean, let's just go into the script itself, right? It's the book of Yuyeyes. It's what does that I represent, family?
A J. It's Book of Judges.
If you want to say it represents the letter Y, all right, no problem. Go ahead. Then what does the DGE stand for? You see, there's a lot of lies. And all it is this is either going to spark your mind to say, we can't stand Sean, Brother Sean and the Zion Assembly of John Joshua because they love to juke up things and come up with these things, or maybe investigate it yourself. I'm not telling you to change nothing. You do what you wish. You know we're going to say Jah till we die. And Jehoshua with the J sound till we're dead. Because we don't think that the J is obsolete. But I'll still say Yah, Yahshua, Yeshua, because that's what the Gentiles could only pronounce. They couldn't pronounce the J sound. Latin and Roman guys, the Gentiles, the goats, the straight-haired people, compared to the Negroes, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. I mean, there's even look at this word here. It's Jerusalem. And they even spell it with an H.
With an H, yeah.
Higher Jerusalem. Should be a Y, maybe. Right? So again, you see judges there. Again, is it Yudges? Yudahes? Yuyes? How are you going to pronounce this word if there's no letter J? And if they did, are you going to tell me that, yes, that's exactly what they did? They walked around and they was like, don't you yoye me? How dare you yoye me? It makes no sense.
So
It sounds foolish. I have to stay here to emphasize because a lot of people don't know what we're dealing with here. There is the name Iudah. I mean, you can make that a Y if you want, but according to this rule, how should that be pronounced?
Judah with a J sound.
You can say Yudah. I know you'll say Yudah, but again, if you say Yudah, then say Yudgehes. Say Yudhes. This has got to be a Y too. But it's not. That I stands for the J sound. So you have to argue about, well, the I didn't carry the J sound. All right, now you can start talking, but we got to stop with that J talk. Don't put it in my comment section. I'm just not going to pay attention no more. There's that letter I for Yudah, and there's how it is. There's that letter. I mean, that letter is supposed to be an I, because there it is, and I likewise. But I mean, if it's an I here, is it an I here for Iudah? I don't know. It's hard to tell, right? There's a word up here. It says Iuftly. Is that Iuftly or is it justly? Iuft, because even the letter F had the S sound. You'll see that a lot. Even the name Jesus is spelled Jefus. There's IOFEPH. You see that? So
Yeah.
the F has a, the F here has an S sound. The PH makes the F sound, and the I can make a I, Y, or a J, or an I sound. Again, it's up to you how you want to see this word here. You can see it as IFF. You can know that it's Joseph, or you can say no, it's Yosef or Yofef. Again, you can do that, but I'm not gonna fall for these things at all. Again, this is Joshua. That letter there that they say is not a J, but I don't know what else it looks like. OFHUA. You see the F? It has the S sound.
Yeah.
This is not Joshua, or even if it were used as a Y, it's not Yahuwah. The F had the S sound, and if you know that, then again, it's easy. Look at the date of this.
1535.
This is supposed to be, remember, the letter J came in the 1500s. Again, I don't know, is that letter, what letter is that? Is that a Y? Or is it an I or a J? And if it's an I, then you know it has a J sound. I'm just showing you what's here. Judges, here's again Judges. There's the, if you want to go online, online.net, 1535. And here's Psalms 119, verses 73. And there's that symbol, the Jod. And there's the symbol that it's supposed to be too. You see that little thing there?
Yeah.
A little thing. It almost looks like a J sideways, doesn't it? But anyways,
A
the
little
computer
hook.
turned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's turn that around. But again, we're not. That's neither here nor there. This is how this sounds. So if this is spelled IOD or YOD, or what is it going to be? It's a J. That is definitely looks like a J to me. But again, there's Job down here, or Iob, or Job, and then there's, it said this is supposed to be Genesis, Gene. So it's not Genesis because the J sound never existed. So it's Genesis. I know someone say, but it's supposed to be Bereshit in the Hebrew. I'm just, using wisdom, using our critical deduction skills and brains that Jah gave us, rather than falling for these Gentile lies. I ain't blaming no Israelites for these lies. No way. The Gentiles came with these things. They're the ones who had gotten these things, and they messed it up. Thought Israel was doing bad with just things. These Gentiles did way worse than Israel did. Trust me. I mean, look right here. This is again the word IUDGMENTES, 1535. What were they pronouncing this word? Right?
Judgments.
Now here's the word. Remember that word will? They that fear, this is the word that, by the way, with that little Y there, but it's a short cursor writing. They that fear the will, fear them, will. W, what letter is that?
It's a
Y.
Y.
WYLL. There's where your I is the Y. You're never going to find, ever going to find like the I in front of a vowel and that Y carries that sound. Never going to find nothing in no King James Bible, old Bibles, or anything of that nature as they translated it from the Hebrew and the Greek to the English. So if you want to be a Hebrew only person, then go ahead, be a Hebrew only person and talk against all of these things. But I'm just using our English language that we're using now, going back, and we can, still study what we think is true Hebrew as well, even though it won't matter. This is all a part of the Nazarite talk. Although we talked about names, this is about the Nazarite. And I might have to change the title of this lesson after, but this is the Nazarite part 1 still, even though we didn't even get to him. My point here of showing you this understanding about the true Messiah is that the scholars, the translators, they're all Confederates. No matter what country they come from, especially, who the guys I'm talking about who think that they're our people, them guys, they do the worst kind of thing. And I noticed that when I looked for this letter J, they said there's no letter J. And this is what's in the original 1611. This is I. And then this is also there as well. I have not did anything. This is how it's spelled normally in the red. A, B, notice the letter I-A-H. But you'll see other times it's spelled like this. A-B-I-J-A-H in the same Bible. Abiyam they'll spell it Abijam. So we get to see that this I, if there's a double, anytime there was a double I, it has the J sound. Because it's an I in front of a vowel. Adonijah. Ahijah, Elijah, Hodijah, Malchijah, Tobijah, Urijah, Irijah, and even Ajalon, two eyes. They have this. You go into the 1611 where they say there's no J, you're going to see this little symbol, and you're going to see this symbol as well, but you'll see them both. This spelling is in there and this spelling. And the most time that I see the letter J's in there, the most times this little letter J is always when it's dealing with the name Jah. Yeah, look at it. You don't see this letter J too much in anywhere else. Here's I Jalan, but look at where you find this J when they say there's no J, letter J in the 1611. This is what they say. And I found them here, and I have other lessons where I've already record them, but I found them like it's always dealing with Ja. There's one with Jam, but Ja. I don't think they like the name Ja. And
No.
I don't even want them to use it. Let them keep on to their thing that they use. I don't want them come dirty up Ja name. You understand? With their lies. Yeah, most time when I see the J in the original 1611 version, they say it's not there, it's always in the name Jah. This is an American book. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, P. Look at the letter I. What does it say? I for Job.
Yeah, I see it.
Not I for Eob. I for Job. This is a 1600, 1500 textbook for children in the United States. There's no J, right? Because you don't need the J. It's right there. It looks like an I, though, doesn't it? Because they know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I clearly represented the J sound.
Praise Jah.
Praise Jah.
How much time we got here? Ooh. The European Yiddish Yahudim deception, sometimes a vowel, sometimes Y. This is a Y. We're going to leave this till next week, but let me just spark your thinking so you can do your research over the week. This is the Phoenician Wa. This is the Greek Epsilon, the Roman Epsilon, or the Roman Y. Its name in English is Y. That's what you call it, Y. In the so-called Hebrew, it's called a Wa. Not a Y, but a Wa, or a Vav. So how is it the 10th letter of the Hebrew Yod? This is a chart of watching these letters come down, right from their paleopictograph. I could speak an ancient language talk, and boom, you got here. Remember the hand guy I was telling you about before?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You follow him down. He's this. It's a letter E. I mean, even this looks like a letter E. And the hands and the head, if you turn sideways, like the letter E. But then you have here the Wa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a Wa. The 6th letter. It comes down looking like this, looking like a Y. It comes down in the Greek looking like a Y. Also, you see the yellow, there's a detour as well over here. It comes all the way down over here, going to the end of the alphabet, looking like a Y. Coming down here, looking like a backwards F now. Now coming down lower, looking like a F, and like a F again. Oh, but when we go back over here, don't forget, it comes to here, then it goes to here, then it comes to here, and the Y becomes a V, the Y becomes a Y, and also becomes the U, it becomes a V, it becomes a W, and it's a Y. But yet, it's supposed to be over here where the Jud is. This is, around the 10th letter. Where's the J? Right here?
Yeah.
Right here, right?
Yeah.
Coming down, that letter there, coming down again, looking like an I, looking like a I, being an I or a J. Now looking like a Y. You don't look like a Y, you look like an I. You understand? They look like a Y. And here, this here upside letter J, looking like a candy cane, is an L. But, when we look at the Wa, the Vav, it looks like a Y. And they say it's a W, and they say this is the character. Right? And then they say this here looks like a arm with looking like a Y too, with the F, where that's where the Jod is supposed to be, like that, a small letter, not a big letter. Again, it's a Y. This is their Hebrew pictograph. I put in the letters in the yellow, but I mean, if you'd ask a 2-year-old or any child that knows their alphabet, I should say, or people, what letter does this look like? So
So
clearly a
what?
Y, clearly a Y, but they're going to say no. There's the la. This is for the letter L. Now, it's for the letter L sound, but what does it look like though?
Looks like a letter J.
I know. It just looks like a letter J, but it won't be the J sound. It's a lamed. I know that already. But again, when people think about things and symbols, nobody just came up with a letter that looked like a hook. It's right there. It just didn't represent the J sound back then. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying, don't you get kind of tired of people kind of not doing their research?
Mm-hmm.
Almost finished. All right. There's a wa again, looking like a Y. It also represents the W sound or Y sound, and also the U. But the U also has a the U. I mean, sounds like a U. Starts with a Y, right? YOU. So they're going to call the yod a Y and a J here, and it's going to be a W and a Y up here. So now the Y can be two things. The Phoenician alphabet. Again, here's your Y. It also could be an F, U, V, Y, or a W. Then we have your yod. They give it a Y sound, even though it trickles down to the I and the J. They don't trickle down to no Y. They just said, hey, this 10th letter, we're just gonna give it a yod sound. I'll show you what I mean by that. This Y again in the Roman and in the Greek, it's upsilon. There's the iota. The letter Y is also called Y or Greek Y, Greek I. Here's a Y again. They call it a Y. They're not gonna say it's a Y. I'm almost done. Besides up here, this is when these guys find the Qumran text, the Dead Sea Scrolls. But what
Yeah.
I found is in the Hebrew, what I want to show you in the Hebrew is that these guys say, and tell you that the wa that looks like a Y could also be switched for a ja, and they could be interchangeable. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How can that be? And if it is, we found your little trick, right? And it's right here, not just up here. Here you have the use of the yod, wa, and he are frequent. Notice it says here, wa and yod are interchangeable. I wonder why. I wonder dry. I wonder that letter. The wa and yod are interchangeable. Where you would expect to find a yod, sometimes a wa will often be written, and a yod where a wa is expected to be. This is also frequent in this Q document, right? Going further, wa and yod in the rule of the community. It says here, the point of the present article is not to enlarge on this theme, but to draw attention to a particular problem which I, and apparently all other students of IQS, the Qumran scripts, overlooked at the time, namely the problem of the distinction of the W, the wa, and the yod. On the basis of careful re-examination of the entire manuscript, I have come to the conclusion that the copyist responsible for our text in its present form, although in some cases using wa and yod promiscuously, in the majority of cases distinguish the two letters very carefully. Some of the readings enclosed so and so forth, but they just let you know that the wa and the yod would be used, interchangeably. Under the heading Yod by Crawford Howell Toy Isaac Broyode, the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the name seems to be connected with Yad, meaning hand. The Phoenician Yod remotely resembles a hand in form. The letter is a palatal semivowel, identical. See, it's a semivowel palatal when it's a Y, but if it was the J, it would say a fricative palatal consonant, identical in the sound with the English Y. Preceded by the cognate vowel I, it blends with it, the resulting a combination of being long I, with the preceding of a vowel form. As a radical yod sometimes interchanges with wa.
Wow.
Why? Because it's a Y. That's wa. As a numeral, it is later usage of the value of 10. So the wa carried the value of 10 as well when yod should, because yod is the 10th letter. Then they say the tetragrammaton is sometimes represented by yod, its first letter, because the tetragrammaton is garbage. This is the Matrilectionis rule script, how they deal with these letters. This is the wa in their so-called Hebrew. You see how it just has a longer thing than this?
Yeah.
Look at the top part. If I cover it, it looks the same. So the wa with the y sound and the wafa and the u sound, and also the yud. Yud is a little bit shorter, but we know the yud has to be small because it's a jot, it's a tittle, it's like a tittle, it's small. Why does the Hebrew sometimes use the yod and y, wad, and wa interchangeably? This guy says, there are two main reasons I can think of. After the Jews adopted the Aramaic alphabet that doesn't deal with the J, Gentile business, wa and yod are so similar that a sloppy writer could mix them up as often just by writing them sloppily or make it almost impossible to tell which was meant. A well-worn manuscript can end up with smudges and worn-off letters, again, mixing up the letters, blah, blah. In most cases above, a later copyist would be challenged to decipher which was meant. As for the Ketib, that was based on centuries later understanding by the Masoretes based on their dialect form of medieval Hebrew, I often disagree with them. So anyways, the point here is he's saying there's these interchangeable things that these guys were interjecting. And this is what I want to come to. Now, there's a lot of people in this world that talk about the Abaraya Lashan, which means the original, language of the Adamic language. And there's a guy who wrote this book and everything. And this is the same type of Hebrew that people want to be using. The Abagada Hayaza Kala Tala. And when I was doing that, I wasn't mocking it, the Abagabada. It sounds like I'm mocking it, but I'm just trying to tell you that's how they view it. They don't view no other vowels except the ah sound. There's no o, so somebody even kicked you would say ah, you would never say o, you never say e, you never say oh, which makes no sense. But notice something here. This is our y, right? The wa.
Mm-hmm.
Still looks like a wa. Still looks like a wa. That's how it is. How is it pronounced?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our jod, what they would call the jod or the yod. Doom, doom, doom. How is it pronounced?
Yeah.
So which one is it? Is it the wa or the yod? Like, why are you allowed to have two letters to make two different sounds of your foolish letter Y that you're trying to make people think is the yod when it's the jod? And you're lying. There's a ya there. Oh, I guess there's a special rule when you use the wa as a ya and not as a thing. The reason why they can use this as a ya is because look at the letter it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what I've learned about this letter is that this understanding about this Abaraya Lashan, which is this is what it is. The Abaraya Lashan refers to a book and concept within a religious or spiritual context specifically related to the ancient Hebrew language and its perceived purity and connection to the divine. The term is used to describe the language as a pure, undefiled, Adamic language of repentance linked to the name of Yah.
Yeah.
The phrase is also associated with the book titled Safar Abaraya Lashan, the pure and undefiled Adamic language of repentance, written by Malachiah Kashayam. All right, so my point is, all right, all of this, but these guys are allowed to do whatever they want with their Yah and their letters, and they're going to say that this language is the Adamic language. And the Most High, Jah, confused the language at the Tower of Babel. I mean, I guess these guys are repairing it now. And forget about the Most High coming back and saying, I will give you a new language to worship me with one consent. They've already done it. They got some divine revelation that this is how this alphabet is pronounced. And I know Pastor Preacher teaches it, Prophecy Ministries, and all these kind of things. I don't care who teaches it. And you don't have to care if I'm teaching it. I'm just exposing you to some folly that these guys are talking about because it's all over the place. There's their yatada, there's their yada. It's pronounced ya, it's pronounced ya. There's a letter J that they give to an L. That's all I'm just going to say. The Abaraya Lashan chart, again, here's that little symbol Y like that. They give it a ya sound. That's what it should be. It is the sixth letter. The Y, the ya is the sixth letter, and they're teething out the ja. They're going to say, oh no, we're going to take it from here and put it up here and be a ya. And it's also at the last of our alphabet and try to say that, this letter is a U, V, or W when we clearly know it's a Y. And they're clearly letting us know that it has the ya sound. And they're going to let us know that they can use it and change it whenever they feel like for the jad sound or the 10th letter. Wow. So this is why I have my zeal. And these guys are the ones, they have these things out. I'm not mocking anything.
Yeah, look at that.
I mean, I'm surprised Every single Hebrew Israelite doesn't have a Yahoo male, because I mean, this is how most people would pronounce his name, Yahoo, with a YH and a U. But when I look up the word Yahoo, I see it's an exclamation used to express joy. Yahoo! It's a celebration. Then also, this is what is in your dictionary. I'm not mocking it. Yahoo, in Swift's Gulliver's Travels, one of a race of brutes having the form and all the vices of humans, who are subject to the Houyunims, an uncultivated or boorish person, lout, a philistine, a yokel, a lowercase, a coarse or brutish Persian. So that's what they say. He's a Yahoo. You look at the word Yah in their things in a sentence, it's the informal word for yes, often used to indicate derision or contempt. An exclamation of derision or disgust. Now, I'm not saying they should be using that name that way, but I do know, like, there's all these sounds like, yeah, you, yeah, this, yeah, that. And I know what they're saying. And everybody's thinking that they're saying they're calling on the Most High, but they're not. They're using that Yah in a way that they shouldn't be using the Most High's name. And they shouldn't be using Yah like that, but maybe they're getting their cue from what they see, that's your normal dictionaries and stuff like that. I'm not calling Yah, Jah, a brute or person. And yes, they could maybe be saying, talking against the true Yah, and they're just trying to defame his name and everything. But I also know that these guys love to call him Yah too. They'll say they call him Hashem and stuff like that, but that's what they're doing out in the world. They know they call him by Yahoo or Yahweh or Yahweh or Yah. That's them.
That's right.
These guys. So with that said, again, there's a serious warning, and I'll end with this, Brother Javid.
1 John 4, verse 1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but test the spirits whether they are of Jah, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
Praise Jah and Jehoshua.
Praise Jah.
Exactly what I'm getting at here is that we got to test the spirits, right? We have to test the spirits, everything. That means test the dictionaries, test the concordance, test the erroneous translations. I give all praise and respect and honor to Jah, Yah, our Abba, and his only begotten Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, who died for our sins, who is also known in the world as Jesus, Yahshua, Yahusha, Yahweh Shai, Yehoshua, that way, and Yeshua. And I know people respect those names, and I'll give those names, but that's what the early Gentiles were using. And I'm going to stick with the true Hebrew, what I figure is the true Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew, and I'm not trying to say for sure this is how it goes, but I know that these guys are going too far and out of their way to try to shoot down the J sound when it's right there.
That's right.
So that means they're lying and they're covering up something. When you lie and you cover up things, that means there's something to hide. And I'm not calling on the names all the time what these Gentiles tell us with their Hebrew. Praise Jah. Bless up all family and brethren and sisters of the Zion Assembly and all Messiahs all over the world. I'm a Messiah. I'm not an Israelite. I'm not a this and that. I'm a Messiah, right? In the Messiah. And if I happen to be an Israelite by blood because of my father, so be it. And if you happen to have Israelite blood in you, good, that's all right too. But I'm a Messiah, and the Messiah is what makes me a true Israelite. And that is an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile. And that's what we have to have, that understanding. And I believe that. You understand? Even if there's Israelite blood running through my veins because of my father, I do believe wholeheartedly I'm a Messiah in the Messiah. And yeah, maybe it's good to know that I'm an Israelite. But outside of knowing that now, I can't do what my forefathers did and crucify the Messiah or talk against him and not follow him. No, not do that. Praise Jah, right. Joshua.
Praise Jah again.
That's it for me today, Fambolis. And yeah, seems like we are at the end of that part one, because I'm just looking here, and yeah, we're at the end, because up next is next week we will be focusing on this: the true Messiah, Jehoshua the Nazarite, the way of the Nazarite, Joshua the Nazarite. You could have Yahweh Shai be a Nazarite too, but people who teach about Yahweh Shai and Yahshua and Jesus, they don't teach that the Messiah is a Nazarite. And why not? He is. Why talk against it? And why? Because they don't know his voice. And We're not righteous, but we're studying him to learn of him, and we believe in him. And this is why it's good to know that he is a Nazarite. And next week, it'll be, very, very clear. Praise Jah.
Praise Jah.
Bless up, Sister Andrea. Bless up, Brother John.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Bless up, everybody's Auntie Alma, Zion Assembly family, Mama Greg. Greg himself, too, of course. All of the sisters and brothers. Bless up, Sister Carice, Sister Andrea, Brother John, Monroe family, Brother Alton's out there. Don't know if Sister Janessa's here. She usually says hi, but in a day I know, maybe. And whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
Bless up. Have a good week, everyone. And unless there's any comments or questions, we're going to be locking off. Glory to the Abba and to the Ben. Tune in next week.
Yes. Amen. Great studies there, Brother Sean. And this week we have the beginning of summer to look forward to. Thursday evening, May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good week, everyone.
Have a blessed week.
Yeah, man.
Bless up, Sister Trinidad and all others. Sorry if I don't call your name and thing, but sometimes I can't remember everybody's name. All right.
Yeah, man.
One love, Javid.
Yeah, man. One love, Brother Sean. See you
Good
shortly.
work, brother. Yes.
Bless up, everyone. Have a good week. Out.
Easy. Blessings. All right. We'll lock this down then. Praise Jah. One love, everyone. Shalom.